So I'm seeing reactions on Facebook about people's response to the panic buying and the fear of, I guess, scarcity. And, you know, like anything, like any kind of virus, you're going to have to respond to it. It doesn't matter what kind of virus it is, you're going to have to respond to it. Now, the whole point of quarantine and the whole point of vaccines is to slow it down. So that way it gives the medical establishment enough time to catch up to the afflictions, but you can't get away from the virus. You can't get away from anything that goes viral. I don't care what it is, whether it's an idea, whether it's a fear, whether it's an actual bacteria virus. You can't get away from it. So those people are like, oh, I'm not going to feed into the fear, and I'm going to take my money out of the stock market, and I'm going to say, everybody, oh, you're all a bunch of sheep. And I see people doing that. They're all just like, they're violently opposing people's fears and all of that. I don't care how it is you respond to it. You're going to have to deal with it. And how you deal with it will be the difference of whether or not you're going to live through this or you're going to end up like those that you are upset at, that are causing all this fear of enslavement. And there are famous people right now that are inducing so much fear with absolutely no real sound solution. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to take my money out of the stock market and just completely just decimate the market because it's all a bunch of slaves, and a bunch of, enslaved owners and all that stuff. And they participate in the market for the longest time until it doesn't serve them anymore. Those are the hypocrites in our society. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to take all my money out of the stock market. I'm going to stop shopping this and stop shopping that. But they were shopping it and doing all that for the longest time because it served them until it doesn't. And then they're like all against it. And then I see people like, oh, I'm not going to take part in this fear. I'm not going to go panic buy. Right? And they're making fun of those that are panic buying. And then they go to the market and guess what? There's nothing left for them. You know why? Because they waited too long. They were living in a fantasy world that they weren't going to be affected by their environment. They thought that they were special. It wasn't going to happen to them. And they're all making fun of people until they actually get to the market and there's nothing left. And I'm like, you know what? You're going to have to deal with this virus regardless. You're going to have to deal with whatever's going on in the government, in your environment, with the food supply, with whatever. And if you don't have what it takes, then you are no different than those that you are railing against. There are some famous people out there like Jason Christoff, who is totally just influencing people and telling them to take the money out of the stock market, stop taking part in the system. And yet he was one of the biggest purveyors of the system, making money off his weightlifting, whatever, his gym, making money off of all the fear. Oh yeah, it's all about the Illuminati and all of this and all of that. Major capitalist. And yet he's railing against the system. I see those are like, oh yeah, the mainstream media, they induce fear, and I'm seeing all this fear mongering on Facebook, and everyone's falling victim to the manipulation and the fear and all that stuff, and they're doing exactly the same thing. And they have their own personal solution. So I'm like, how are you any different than the mainstream media inducing fear with your own personal solution? The mainstream media has their fear and their own personal solution. Chili Juice has their own fear and a personal solution. So we're all in this together. We all are trying to induce fear and we all have a personal solution. So call a spade and stop attacking those that are trying to create awareness with some kind of solution. And if you want to be one of those that don't want to acknowledge reality and you want to sit and judge everybody, then you're going to be left holding the bag with nothing in it. You'll be watching those taking their 10 fucking packs of TP because you decided not to. You'll be one of those watching those that take all the freaking meat out of the market because you decided not to. And then you're wondering, why the hell are you now left with nothing? Because you didn't act soon enough. You were too busy judging other people, too busy trying to be different, trying to sound like it's not affecting you. Oh, but it is, because you haven't grown your own food. Like you're professing that everyone should grow their own food, grow their own animals, don't take part in the system. And now you're all bitching and complaining that you go to the grocery market and everything is cleaned out of the shelves because you didn't act soon enough. And that's exactly what the people out there that are not doing the J juice is. They wait to the last minute and then they react. Well, people that are bitching about the mainstream media and the New World Order, who are so slow to react to the fear, are still shopping at the same grocery stores that they're against. And there's nothing left for them. It's freaking laughable. I have to laugh because they're shooting themselves in the foot. Okay? The very fact that you're able to talk about all of your little conspiracies is because you take part in the freaking system that you're railing against. Do you not get it? Do you not understand how this works? The more that you rail against the mainstream media and their fear-mongering, the more that you're taking part in it with your own little solution, no different than them. How are you any better than the freaking mainstream media? How am I better than the mainstream media? I'm not. I have my own personal solution that people are taking advantage of, and they're doing great. And they are heeding the warnings. I knew about this whole panic buying way back in freaking mid-February. And I was writing the update of my book and taking care of my dog who's upgrading to the system and dealing with all of you trying to figure out your place in this. And yeah, having my own issues with dealing with the truth, going through the stages. Because I went through the stage of going like, oh my God, how can you not take this seriously? Oh, it's just a flu. No, it's not just a fucking flu. But I've come to terms with the fact that that's sort of who I deal with. This is the world that I live in. There are deniers and there are people that think that they're immune, that it won't affect them. And then when they actually go and shop at the food stores they're totally against, there's nothing left for them because they waited to the last minute. They didn't want to be part of the mainstream. At some point, when you're part of the mainstream, you're going to have to take part in it. The fact that you're on Facebook railing against the mainstream is the fact that you are in the mainstream. It's like, holy crap. And so the logic escapes me. The guy Sol Kim that's on my Facebook, total anti-vaxxer, is all like, oh, I'm not afraid of the mainstream media. All this fear-mongering. And he takes part in it, and he has his own solutions. The mainstream media has their own fear stuff, and they have their own solutions. I take part in the fear stuff, and I have my own solution. So call spade a spade. We are all part of the fear campaigns, and we all have our personal solution. So let's not knock each other and just take heed. You know, there are things that you can follow and listen to, and there are other things you don't have to. Okay? But when it comes to food and it comes to where you're not growing your own food, which even if you grow your own food, it's not going to be enough. You think you're going to live off of a bunch of plants? You can't live off of cabbage alone. You can't live off of salt alone. You can't live off of water alone. You have to have food. You don't have the diverse amount of food in your garden. I don't care if you have like 50 vegetables in your garden. It's not going to be enough. You still got to get something from the grocery store. Nobody is 100% dependent on their food supply, like in their garden, without taking a hit nutritionally. Okay? So you might as well learn how to mix natural law and man-made law, which is, yeah, you can grow your own food and pretend to be like an off-gritter, and then acknowledge that there is a place for grocery stores. There's a place for meat. There's a place for modern conveniences. Okay? And all this fear about the New World Order taking over, I understand people are thinking it's all these nefarious stuff, but who cares? You have to survive it. You have no choice in the matter. You've got to survive what's going on. We have people that are like, okay, well, I'm strong enough to handle the virus, so I don't need to sequester myself. And I was thinking that too in the beginning, like, oh yeah, all of us jelly juicers are, we're going to be immune to this. No, we're not, because we also could be super spreaders. We also could be taking down those that we love who are not doing the J juice. We could be the ones that are causing this whole issue. So that's why, in a lot of ways, I wasn't really keen on visiting two of my sick friends, but people were expecting me to visit them. So I visited them because I didn't want to come off like I'm a cold person. But that whole pressure to be sociable, the whole pressure to be busy and visiting everybody and being this, caretaker, that is what's going to do us in, because that does not teach independence. If anything, that teaches more dependence. And so that's why I'm kind of in an island unto myself, because I've always kind of been that way. I've always been a bit of a loner anyways, fighting against what, the pressure of the system, making me be sociable, making me have to take part in the programming. And, and I know there's a balance, but now more than ever with this virus, now we have to look at, quarantine is independence. Okay? Quarantine is independence. Instead of showing how much you love someone by giving them your freaking disease, and making the numbers go up and putting more pressure on the system. Teach your friends how to be independent. Do the J juice if you know how to. If you don't know how to, then don't even bother talking about J juice, because you would explain it wrong, and that person would be freaking the hell out trying to go to the hospital and then catch the disease that way. Okay? So, but really, the true expression of love is to teach people how to be independent when it's necessary. Not say, okay, across the board, just don't take part in the system at all. Take all your money out of the system and don't buy this and don't buy that, and only eat your freaking herbs in your garden. And the person is wasting away from malnutrition because you made them think that they had to be 100% off-grid independent. There's a way to be independent and acknowledge that you still need your community without harming them with your virus or whatever that you may be holding. Because you could be a carrier and be asymptomatic. Okay? So, anyway, I've ceased really being a troll on some of people's pages, because I'm like, I just unfollow. Anyone that I see that's just like, oh my God, there's no freaking food. And I'm like, yeah, because I've been watching your Facebook and you've been bitching and judging other people for taking part in this panic buying. But I was doing my shopping a bit earlier because I knew that once this thing took viral, once people started seeing the reality of this situation, they were going to go buy. And you can't stop an idea. You can't stop a fear, an idea, a virus, a bacteria. You can't stop it. So now you must figure out how to adapt to it. And if you can't adapt to it, then you were never meant to be independent, to be a conspiracy theorist. You were never meant to be what you claim to be. You were just putting on airs. You were putting on a show that you had nothing to back it up with. And there are a lot of people on my Facebook that are like that. They have all these freaking fears and all these different things and judgments. And they're like, oh my God, it's a new world order. They're going to kill us. They're going to do all this stuff. Take your money out of everything. And don't follow the mainstream media panic. And then they're the ones that actually depend on the grocery stores. And when they go there and there's nothing left, now they're bitching. And I'm just kind of like snickering a little bit. I'm like, I've been watching you, dude. You've been too busy judging other people. And now you're acting. And now you finally seen the light. Oh, it's a little bit too late. And you have to reap the consequences for your judgment. Thanks, Allie. Yes, Caroline. Love the unfollow button. So, all the irony around all this stuff, especially around the J juice, doesn't escape me. And that's the humor around this is watching those that are judging others for panic buying. And then they go to the grocery store and they're doing their little daily grocery store, their weekly grocery store, and there's nothing left because they didn't know when to turn on their conspiracy and when to turn off their conspiracy. They just kept the conspiracy stuff on and there's no turn off button. And that's no different than your hormones. When you have an imbalance in your body, mind, and spirit, some people's hormones get turned on and they never get turned off, and it stays on at the wrong times. Or they get them turned off and it never goes back on, and then they have no fear where they should, and then they put themselves in a very bad situation. And that's what I'm seeing right now. So this definitely is going to YouTube. You guys have a good day. Bye.